So sometimes it just sound just cuts. So connection around here is not very good.
Neither here.
So
Don't
I
worry.
hope it.
No,
Okay.
don't worry. Neither in Brazil, neither in Chile. No, I connection sucks everywhere,
Mhm.
unless you are in
Yeah.
Korea or in Japan. Uh, well, we are already streaming it.
Okay.
So, hi Khalil.
Hello.
Let's see. Let me introduce you in Spanish and then we go on the interview.
Okay.
Khalil es un desarrollador, él es marroquí, hizo un juego que se llama Hang There. Es un juego que me interesó mucho porque tiene un concepto bien fresco para los juegos de plataformas. Es un juego en donde las plataformas no existen y sin embargo es un juego de plataformas. Está muy inspirado en Cut the Rope, o por lo menos así lo siento yo, pero bueno, vamos a hablar con Khalil sobre cómo fue realmente el proceso de desarrollar este juego. Hi Khalil, I was talking to the
Hi.
audience that you develop a Hang There, and it's a
Yes.
very fresh perspective for the platformer games, or at least I thought so, because there's no platforms, and
Thanks.
it's very fun to have a game that breaks the concept. So, what
Thank you.
was the inspiration behind the Hang There development?
Well, it's a little bit a long process since I didn't have this idea right away to not have platforms at all. So the initial idea was to make something simple because I just started to go in the about end 2011. I wanted to make games initially. So I started to learn mobile programming. I made a little app about Arabic before starting to find a new design. So initially I was working on something way more complex. It was a simulation, and then I wanted to break that pressure of making something big as a first game. So I switched to this idea. So it started like all platformers. I just wanted to play with that idea of the grappling hook initially. Then when I started to iterate on it, I just found out that since it was all about swinging, why have platforms at all at this moment? So it wasn't not even a runner initially. It was meant to be a dungeon explorer with just that swinging mechanic. So that's more or less how it started.
Wow, and do you have on this development? Because I remember you told me that you don't draw, and so that's why
Yeah.
we use a cube. Yeah, and a square, not a cube, a square. So, what were the challenges? For example, uh, I've noticed that most of the developers don't have that musical background, so that's one of the hardest points on the develop of the game. I really liked the music. Tell me, what
Yeah.
were the challenges you had?
I didn't hear everything. It was freezing a little. So what was the question exactly? Excuse me. I heard that you wanted to know
Yeah,
about the music,
what
but
was the hardest? Okay, what was the hardest
the
part
hardest.
of the development of Hang There?
Yeah, okay. It was all more or less hard, frankly, because you have that barrier to make the first game. So programming was mainly my background. So even with being a programmer, I used Unity because it's as a one man you can't do everything yourself, or I would have just spent the year making the engine. So I kind of find that BIM design is the hardest discipline so far. and the one that I started to like the most. Because it's easy when you see it like that, you have ideas and so on, but when you start iterate on it and see how it works, every detail counts. So, like I said, it was not even a runner at the beginning. So, about assets, so far it was that producer mentality that too I had to learn, to get things done, because at first, like you said, I couldn't draw, so I contacted some friends. They were not available, unfortunately, so I had to look for Creative Commons assets, and that was the same thing for music and sound. So I looked in opengameart.org. I looked, luckily, when I was trying to find some sounds and music, I found the excellent blog from Eric Skiff. So everyone is credited there for music, and it just clicked. I found that song named Chibi Ninja, and I couldn't draw more than a square, so it was that little ninja. It was clicking nice with the team, so I left it there. And really the hardest part after that was to have that good feeling. So on mobile you have tons of screens. I don't have a big lab test. I have just one Android little device and one iOS 3GS device. So that was good to see the performance and to optimize, because all devices, if it can run on it, it can run everywhere. But I run into all the difficulties that one man in the lab can face. So testing, programming, iterating on it, like that version for that grappling, I didn't have enough feedback, so the game was way harder for the first version, for example, and I took it from there. Hopefully it's not that hard now, but I had like three different versions, for example, for that grappling mechanic. I iterated on it like 3 or 4 times. I remade the code 4 times.
Well, other challenge that you had. I remember I met your game in a French page. So, how was the process of promote your game? Because it's very different the position of promote a game when you are in Africa than when you are in America. Here we have our market is USA, and we'll go with English and Spanish, and it's enough. But how is to work to the European market to make the programs broke the barrier of the language, because in Europe there's a lot of languages and cultures. So how was that process to promote and to show to the European public your game?
Yeah, I forgot about that, because not that I forgot, but since marketing comes after production, that's the second hardest thing to do, and to my disappointment, I kind of suspected it. But when you are confronted with the marketing thing now that you have, especially on mobile, especially in a free market, with things going on like tons of cloning and stuff like that, it's not really super easy. So. The first day I released it, I went with promoting to the other developers that I was more or less in contact with on Twitter. I was not much of a Twitter user since a year ago or something like that, when I started really to work on it every day. So I was lucky enough to be followed by some great names in the industry, like Rami Ismail from Vlambeer. Since we both spoke Arabic, he is half Egyptian, half Dutch. So he was one of the biggest names that started following me like a year ago or so. So that gave me a boost to try to contact other developers, get in touch with them, and I had some nice reactions that helped a lot. Some retweets. As for the second update that I did last October, I tried to contact press like crazy. I spent a week just sending mails to everyone, to every media outlet. So that gave me two awards, among them you, because I was quite happy the first day I was spotted on your radar too. And that's it. I just systematically went after every media that was listed. I used the promoter. I don't know if you heard about the tool. It's quite a nice tool for indies to have a list of media outlets to contact. So that was on a trial period for 2 weeks. So it expired since then, but I plan to use it for next marketing stuff. I will do. So I had a coverage on Indie Game Magazine. That was nice, and 2 or 3 other media outlets that released the news. So mainly mailing to everyone, and especially mobile. That was the hardest part because nobody kind of covers free games if the game doesn't stand for itself enough. So I was lucky on that front.
It's interesting because it's almost the same panorama in the big picture that we have here. But at least I feel there is like a bit more places to show uh, and that's nice because that's a market here in America we don't see too much. We feel Europe, we feel Occident very far, and well, it's something that we need to go. I was thinking about some other things like the cultural barrier. Do you think that the video games have any cultural barrier for the production, for the consumers? I mean, um, I'm making video games here in Mexico, or I'm making video games in Brazil, and it's improbable that could understand our jokes, our game mechanics. Why do we create the game the way we create it? So, do you feel a cultural barrier on the video game world?
Alors, cultural barrier too? Excuse me, it's freezing a little.
Yeah,
Well,
I having
what
a
do you mean?
little. I mean, sometimes we talk outside of our countries, outside of our of our countries, of our regions. The people want to understand the
You mean
game
about the localization problem itself,
scripts.
or just accessing other cultures from a developer standpoint or a consumer standpoint?
Yeah, access to the far to the culture of other countries. You know,
Yeah.
like for example, here in Mexico, we have the problem of, but they want to understand the feeling of the mariachi. Of they want to understand why I'm talking about. Yeah, you know, so
I
some
see what you
concepts.
mean. I think that for our generation and the one after, I'm born in 80s, and it's even more true for your generation, I suspect, and the ones for my little brother, for example. There is some universal themes generally, even back then. I mean, I started learn English to finish the Zelda on NES because there was some sentences that I had to read in English. So it depends really on the game, I think. There is some games that can be hard to reach other cultures than others, especially games with tons of text. I think that my next project will have as less localization as possible, but that's something super hard to do, to have some universal symbolism or universal themes. But I think the main barrier is still the same. It's just the sheer quantity of games released every day now. So it's just more or less, I think, a pure marketing problem to just have the attention of people. I mean, the market is there. It's just that it's got super competitive now. So just by the sheer quantity of games released every day to get noticed, it has to be really, really unique, I think. So that's on mobile mainly, but on PC, I think when you look at Steam or things like that, tons is done on the localization front. Or, I mean, there is always solution, but that barrier, marketing barriers, in my opinion, remains the hardest.